Hello and welcome to another Tea Time with me, Meoni. This is the video series where I get to sit down in your room, in your ear, and talk to you as if you were here. That's a little bit weird and creepy, but yeah, someone mentioned that, "What are you doing in my room? Get out," in the comment section last time, and I thought I'd play on that a little bit, even if it was slightly too cringy to actually put into a video. But here we are again, so this is a video series where I get to sit down with you and talk to you pretty much about everything to do with 14 and externally sometimes, because I can't live stream. My bandwidth doesn't allow for it. Doesn't allow for it. And more relatively recently, it takes an ice age to upload a video. So hopefully this is, something you've been looking forward to. I know a few people like tea time videos. I'm trying to keep them frequent. I don't know, in some strange way, this might help somebody somewhere in the world. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the world, to put it very mildly. A lot of really bad stuff. And the only way we can really escape from that is through videos. I myself watch many YouTubers and kind of avoid the ones talking about the big C at the moment. That's just something I do. Mostly because I want to keep my mind off of it. Because the more time I dwell thinking about it, and thinking about tomorrow and the day after, the more I just don't have time to game, honestly, and that's way more important since we're all staying at home. So let's talk about video games. In particular, I want to talk about the stuff I'm looking forward to most, and ultimately, also some 14 stuff, what I've been doing lately. So let's first talk about 14 and what exactly has been happening. So more recently, there's been a bit of a content drought, right? We're kind of all waiting for patch 5.25. We're currently on 5.21, which has the ishgard restoration. Not ishgard, I'm not so sure what that would be. And we're progressing through that begrudgingly in places. I know a lot of the community are just like, ishgard restoration? What is this demon filth? Get it away from me. I'm going to start praying for your souls. I can completely understand that. It's not for everyone. It's not everyone's cup of tea. It's not necessarily a demon, but it's certainly filled with them if you let it get you down. There's a few achievements that I was originally thinking of maybe trying to work towards, mostly to get the, a pterodactyl mount or something like that. I think it's a pterodon. I think that's how you pronounce it. pterodon, whatever, right? A prehistoric dinosaur flying mount. You can get that, but then you have to get 500,000 Sky Builder points for every single crafting and gathering class. So I sat there thinking about, maybe I'll work on them slowly one by one. So I sat there and I was like, okay, I'll do the gatherers first. And I managed to get top 100 in a gatherer and a crafter, all right, in the previous season of this ishgard thing. Just to preface that. And that was purely accidental. I didn't put any time into that. It's just that they banned a lot of the bots that were above me. And suddenly I moved up several places in the leaderboards all of a sudden, which was rather entertaining to me. And we had a good gossip about that on the Discord, how suddenly people were missing. And I wonder why. But yeah, some of those achievements are a bit crazy. So I was working hard on fishing. I tried my hardest. I'm not the best at fishing, especially when it comes to moving around and changing bait, depending on the weather condition, which is what you had to do in the new version of Diadem. And there I was going around going, oh, it's Levin, I've got to switch to this now, and I've got to go to this particular island and cast. But at the same time, there's only so much of that I could physically do before I wanted to cave my own head in with a controller. I don't know. It's my cup of tea and not my cup of tea at the same time. It's one of those weird drink situations where you're not sure whether you want to drink it or not. And that's an analogy that most people won't get, but we're going to go with it anyway. It's kind of like when someone makes you a coffee, but there was a tea bag in the cup. And yes, that's happened to me. I'm not sure if other people in the world have tea bags. Maybe you do. Essentially, it's tea in a bag and you put water in it and it makes tea, for those of you who don't have tea bags. But essentially it's like somebody putting coffee in there because they think it's just, do you want a drink? Oh yeah, I would love one. I'm parched. Thank you. And then they go to the kitchen and then they make you a cup a cup of coffee, lovely steaming brew of coffee, nothing better in the world to start a morning with. And then essentially you drink it, or at least you take a sip, and everything is just shattered. Your hopes and dreams all just crumble to the ground, and you go, there was a tea bag at the bottom. Didn't you clean out the cup? Or better yet, even better analogy that most people won't get. Say, for instance, you've put a cup to wash, and perhaps it's got a bit of coffee stuck in the bottom. So you put a bit of fairy liquid in it, which is washing up liquid for those outside of England. And you put that in the bottom, and then someone comes along and says, hey, you want a cup of tea? And then they put a tea bag in there and don't realize it has soap in there. So you end up with this weird, bubbly, disgusting concoction that tastes like hell. Yeah. Can you tell this has happened to me before? Oh, no. Oh, one of my worst nightmares was, I'm a bit of a tangent here, but when I was back in school, many, many eons ago, as you could probably imagine, we did work experience, and we all got to choose a place to work, right? Everybody knows what work experience is. Experience at a workplace. So I managed to get a really cool sort of cushy little position in a newspaper, a local newspaper, a town away from me. And there was the head woman, what do you call them? Newspaper chief? I don't know. The lead editor, something like that. I don't know. I can't remember. You can tell that I didn't go for further forward with that particular profession. So I was trying to impress her, and she's like, oh yeah, I would really like a drink. And obviously when you're in work experience, before you get to touch anything, they teach you your place on the ladder, right? You're at the bottom, Buster, until we say otherwise, which was great, actually. It was a really, really cool experience. But I remember the woman saying, oh yeah, I really fancy a coffee. So I was like, oh, I'll make a coffee. So I took the cup in, and I had to make a drink for 17 people in the office. That was the first, and probably it was actually the last time I offered to make drinks of hot beverages for more than 4 people at once, because it's just chaos. It's just chaos trying to remember everybody. I ended up putting sticky notes on the side of cups going, right, this person needs this. And I still managed to mess it up. And she had coffee in the bottom of the cup, and I may or may not have put Earl Grey tea inside of it. And then, for some reason, I topped it up with coffee. I didn't look in the cup. And then she spat everywhere, all over a keyboard. And was like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, what you asked for, a coffee? And she was like, okay, but why is there tea in here? And yeah, you can imagine what happened. I didn't really progress much further in that work experience. I did get to do some stuff in the newspaper, but I was not the most popular person, at least not with the person I wanted to impress. So there we go. That's work experience with Meoni. That's a slight off-topic thing, but don't mix your drinks. It tastes disgusting, and it makes you not want to employ someone. So there you go. But there, basically, Diadem was like that to me. If we get back to the actual topic, Meoni, Jesus. So basically, that's how I felt about the achievement system. You go in there, you go, oh, 500k, that's nothing. I can do this in a night. 8 hours later, I want to eat myself. That's how I felt. It was just having your cake and eating it, and then wanting to, I don't know, place it on a pedestal at the same time. It's something that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get past. I can understand some people can do it. I have, you name it, I have everything on my second monitor to try and keep me busy during that stuff. It doesn't work. It doesn't help. I don't care. Like, the fact I have to pay attention to when it's raining or whatever the weather is currently, like Levin, etc., and move to a different island. That's not something you can AFK through. Fishing always used to be a thing where you could just go bloop, oh look, bloop, and pull it back out. Not too brain tasking. But this is something that you really need to put effort into, at least. And hats off to anybody who actually has those achievements already, or maybe they've botted, I don't know. But some people have got over 500,000, and they're amazing. If they did that legit, then totally you are a better person than me in every single way. But 500k in every class, I think I've got like, I don't know how much, not even remotely close to 100k in anything. I think my Weaver was my highest, and I got, what was it, 20, was it 29? I think it was something like 29 on my server in the last rankings thing. And I'm not anywhere close to 100k. And then to know that I've got to do another 400 and something thousand points, and you get such a miserable amount of points per turn in of the expert recipes. I was really happy with myself, right? I asked around, I managed to get a macro from someone, I managed to tailor that to what I needed to do. I was happy, I knew how each of the buttons worked. It simplified things, I tailored it to how I needed it to be, I changed some of the options, I filled in for it where it didn't work. I was working hard on my crafting, and I can't even get 100k, and it just makes me feel so sad. Especially when you look at the massive valley of work before you. I don't think I will ever get that mount. It's just painful. And that's just Weaver. I can't stomach to finish off 400 and something thousand points for my favourite crafting class. And that's not even talking about the ones I don't like. Oh my goodness, like goldsmithing. Goldsmithing I'm not a fan of. That and leatherworking. Yeah. I'm not a fan of either of those, actually. It's a nightmare, and I'm not going to keep droning on about this for too long, but my goodness, 500,000 points. That's the last time I mention it, but yeah, anybody who gets that mount is a genius, or something else is happening on their account. I have no idea. But yeah, I will not be making a mount preview video on that for probably the foreseeable. And that's the other question I want to ask is, how long is this ishgard restoration going on for? I mean, is there another ranking phase? Is there going to be like 2, maybe even 3 more patches of ishgard restoration? Like, is there going to be more rewards? What is their plan for this? Is housing going to be a thing? That's on everyone's lips at the minute. The biggest question, the one that no one can answer because it's just something they want to deny but confirm at the same time. The map layout that people have seen of this place kind of looks a little bit like housing plots. I mean, somebody put something on Reddit the other week, or maybe it was a month ago now, actually. It's been so long. My concept of time has shifted a bit. I'm not capable of tracking things anymore, thanks to COVID-19. Thanks world and your crappy diseases. But yeah, I don't know what their endgame goal for this is. In one sort of breath, they're saying there's no housing planned for this. And then in the next breath, they're like, look forward to it, ? Smiley face wink. What do you mean? Are we getting housing or are we not getting housing? There's a lot of things that depend on what I work towards or what I save gil towards if we're actually getting housing or not getting housing. I don't know. I would actually prefer that not to be a surprise. There's a lot of things I do like to be surprises in the game, but that's probably not one of them. I'd love to know where we stand. Apart from ishgard restoration, what have I been doing? Mostly leveling classes. A lot of my friends apparently found the time, thanks to this particular situation, to level up everything to 80. And I'm pretty jelly of that because they get the Amaro mount, which is something I've not done a video on. And I refuse to film someone else's mount. I refuse to do that completely. I want to showcase that on my own character, and I want to film that myself. I know it's a weird thing. I could have filmed this a long time ago. People have offered me like, hey, do you want to film this mount that I've got? I worked hard on it. And I'm like, no. And internally I'm like, no, don't give in. Don't give in to views. Just allow yourself to do it yourself. But my own capabilities of leveling have been pretty abysmal. I have been working a lot on trusts. I've been trying to get those to 80. Something else I've not done. I've not got all of my trust to 80. I don't know why. It's just I keep gravitating towards Y'shtola for obvious reasons, I would like to say. And I find it very difficult to bring in other DPS. It's hard for me to rotate out of my favourite trusts. And Alice, oh geez, if she uses a limit break before me again, I'm just going to find her and I'm going to force her to clean my stables for a month. That's my punishment, okay? I was going to say something more brutal than that, but let's try and keep things a little bit more PG, Meoni. Let's try and keep things more PG. We're trying to placate to a mass audience, not necessarily a select few. But yeah, I've been enjoying that, begrudgingly. But it's something to do, isn't it? Whilst we're waiting for the next patch. And that's really where it comes to, is my speculation, and just runs rampant for the storyline. I keep thinking about Sid coughing up blood in the trailer for the next Relic quest line and the solo duty that's supposed to come with that in 5.25. And that's all I'm waiting for. But then I read stuff and I completely understand the delays and situations that might cause further delays at Square Enix. A lot of their employees just simply can't get in the building. Production is halted for a lot of projects worldwide on many game studios. Social distancing in those sorts of situations is just purely not possible. And especially with the harder hit countries, Asia is parts of it are recovering, but it's not a pretty picture. As you can imagine, and this affects way more than just the people already infected with this disease, but also affects the people that might be infected, and you don't want to risk those people, especially when it comes to designers and creators of some of the most beautiful art in the world. It would just destroy me to read that people at Square Enix would be dying from this, and I know that's a heavy possibility with the amount of employees they have. But it really does rock me solid that a lot of our people worldwide that we look up to, our peers, our celebrities that we follow and respect, all of them are at risk. And honestly, if it means that we don't get the patch until like summer, as much as many people in the community would voice their anger, I would be completely understanding. It's a great opportunity to play other games. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff coming out, like 7 and Trials of Mana. Oh my goodness, I can't wait for that game. So I'd be okay with a delay. But the way things are looking at the moment, I think most of that stuff, or that patch, has probably been done. It's probably polishing, but they're not talking about it for obvious reasons. There's not a live letter or anything like that. So I'm hoping that patch comes out sooner rather than later, but I'm fine either way. And really, can you be the other way about it? Can you really be demanding? I know we pay money for this company to make the game, but you can't pay money for people to risk their lives at the end of the day. If they need to take leave, then they need to take leave. If the office is shut, the office is shut. I really don't care. As long as when we come out of this, the same people are there, and are healthy enough to continue. This is a great opportunity for them to have a relax and the rest and relaxation that they probably need. Yoshi P himself has been rushing around the world non-stop for events and things. You can see the man tiring in his face without being too horrible about it. I'm not trying to be horrible about it, but you can see that it's putting a lot of pressure on people. And I, for one, think this is a great opportunity for them to relax a little bit if they're allowed to do that, if shareholders will allow that for a little bit of a gap, a bit of room to breathe. This is a great opportunity for them not only to stay safe, but also get the relaxation to prevent them from getting other illnesses, stuff that plagues some of our favorite music composers, for example, if you know who I'm talking about. So in many ways, there are some positives to this outbreak, but there obviously the overall thing is, I'd rather have the game with the people we have rather than risk not having them at all at the end of the day. And I can wait for a patch. There's plenty of stuff to keep me busy. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff to keep you busy as well. I mean, that's another topic we should talk about, is Animal Crossing. Oh my goodness, what a game. I know a lot of people probably don't have this, and they probably don't have a Nintendo Switch. If you do have a Switch, I would highly recommend it. It's a bit of a pricey game. It's a brand new release, but it's really quite addictive. You wouldn't think that collecting wood, building random stuff... Oh, wait, I've just realized I'm basically reenacting Ishgard Restoration in another game. Why can't I escape from this? I do it without thinking, but yeah. Animal Crossing is essentially Ishgard Restoration with more rewards, more cartoony feel, and less strain on you. But yeah, you can collect things. There's a lot of randomness, lots of RNG, and everything from shooting balloons out the sky to get presents for recipes or items to store in your house. There's obviously your player housing, your villager housing. You can customize a lot of stuff how you want it to be customized. And ultimately, if you're into that whole thing, like the housing in 14 gets you excited, you're going to love Animal Crossing, as you probably already know. I've been visiting a lot of my my viewer and supporters' islands. I want to visit a lot more of them, actually. And it's been quite interesting. It's been quite interesting to see the creativity on display. When people have a lot of free time on their hands, the creativity flows from them like a font of experience that I wish I could tap myself. If I could tap into that, the content I would create, oh my goodness, the things I would be able to do. But yeah, some of the stuff really puts my little island to shame. I have this really weird island with palm trees growing on a beach in weird, unorganized fashions, and everything's an OCD nightmare. My main entrance from the airport to the actual town square is off-center by like 3 blocks or something. It's really noticeable, but kind of unavoidable and annoying. It's the sort of thing in usual games I would just completely reset the game. But I feel that I'm fairly committed now. I'm a few hours into it, probably more than I would like to imagine, and I'm not going to try and track it. That would be a really bad decision to try and track Animal Crossing time. It's been my go-to game whilst I'm rendering videos or uploading or doing anything, basically, because as soon as I press upload or render a video, I cannot do anything else on the internet or my computer. Otherwise, I'm just going to be there in Ice Age. So it's been my go-to little thing to do on the side. And I'm sure Final Fantasy VII Remake will do exactly that for me. It's an exciting time to be a gamer. There's plenty of platforms with getting really good releases. I know a lot of people have been playing Doom Eternal. I am very tempted to buy that and play it myself, but I've not played the original, not the original, but the Doom 2016, I think it was, release. So I feel that I should probably buy that since it's cheap now and play through that and then play Doom Eternal. But then we got Mountain Blade Bannerlord, right? I'm excited for that. I love Mountain Blade. It's not something you necessarily would expect me to enjoy, probably, but I'm the sort of person who loves that kind of, I don't know, weird sort of RPG, exploration-y, battle strategy games. I love that sort of stuff. So I'm always terrible at it, don't get me wrong, but I do enjoy it. So that's something I might pick up. It's a bit pricey at the minute. It's in early access, but there's a high likelihood. I've also purchased Half-Life Alyx, so I've got to dig out the Vive again. Might do a video on that. It would be probably entertaining to see me do stuff in VR again. If that's something people are interested in, let me know. If there's just one person who wants Half-Life Alyx, I might do an impressions video. And will I do an impressions video? Probably just some gameplay of me shooting stuff. I've seen a bit of gameplay of that on Twitch. I've been watching a few people play it. It looks amazing. I purchased it straight away. Not really much regret at the moment, but I have yet to boot it up. I have a backlog of games. I think most people are like this. We see something else that's cheap or on offer, we buy it, and then we end up with over 400 games in our Steam library alone, without counting the rest of our games, and we're like, I really should have probably played through this game back in 2013. I wonder why I never did that. And then you see that there's a release next to it that got over 170 hours in it, and then another one for 298 hours. So it's not like I'm not playing the games, it's just there's so many that I've played through. I find it very difficult to choose between releases. I will never be a rich man. I will never proclaim to be able to be a rich man, simply because if there are 2 options of games and I want both of them, I will do everything within my power to try and get both. If I can scrape by even remotely in real life. But even more so these days, I get stuff because I have an idea of making a video on it for YouTube, and then usually it never pans out that way, or if it does go on YouTube, people hate it. So, but more recently, I've been trying my hardest to do more live stuff. I think I'm getting better at it. It's not like there's a textbook out there that, makes any sense for somebody saying this is what you should do when you make live recorded videos, and this is what you shouldn't do. It's kind of just trial and error, and you have to watch what other people do. I think that's the best guide, is just watching people who are successful, or at least that you enjoy on Twitch or YouTube or whatever it is, and try and not necessarily replicate that, but bring your own style to that table and give it a good go. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what I tried to do for the 7 remake demo. A few people like that. Some people were very furious with me that the filter took out. Very furious. Lots of swear words were enclosed about me staring at a poster for more than 30 seconds. All I can say to that is deal with it, because everybody plays a game differently. And my way of playing a game is probably very different than other people. I try to explain this in playthroughs. I get sidetracked very easily. Oh, look, a shiny. There goes Meoni for 25 minutes whilst he's recording. Not necessarily something that's very good for somebody who wants to watch a playthrough of a game chapter by chapter. But then again, I don't know. Surely it would be better for you to play it through yourself, or maybe watch somebody who doesn't have commentary, because we waffle a bit. It's not like intentional waffle. It's because we want to engage with you and talk about things as we go. And that's something I'm trying to do myself. When I play through a game, I'm like, okay, I'm not thinking necessarily all the time about what I'm saying. I'm reacting to things on the fly, and I'm trying to keep things as less dead air as humanly possible. And that's something you just have to learn as you go. Some of the stuff probably doesn't make any sense, but some of it is precious as well. Some of the best stuff is like first reactions to events and boss fights and scary moments and things like that. That's what the world was built on in entertainment, people's reactions to things, and their experiences, and how you shared an experience with someone else, and that's what we attach onto. So hopefully you've been enjoying my playthrough stuff, because I have a few other things planned. Trials of Mana, I'm going to have to do a playthrough of that game. I basically did the first episode. If you've not already seen that, the demo is essentially the first chapter of the game. There's no way around it. I've chosen my character, Angela. I'm enjoying the heck out of that game. I've played through that demo about 20 times. I'm sorry to say. It's surprising. I've played through each of the characters in their first chapter, and I've settled on Angela like I did in the original playthrough I did for YouTube with my first impressions, my Meopressions videos, which are actually semi-popular now, thankfully. Thanks to all of you for watching them. And I have to say that game is more than I expected. A few other content creators, such as Worked Game, have expressed their opinions on it as well. I would advise you check those out. Some of them, but I agree with. Some of them I disagree with. Brian is the sort of person who remembers the multiplayer from a game like that, but I think my direct response to that was, since when do I have friends to play old games like that with? I just don't have anybody, and it would be cool to have multiplayer, but it's not something necessarily that attracts me to the Mana series. It's the storyline, the cutscenes, seeing it remade into this beautiful 3D world with a panable camera and the music and voice acting, so I can actually learn how to pronounce things. I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I'm always excited and apprehensive when voice acting is applied to 90s RPGs, because I know for a fact everything I thought I knew will be wrong. There's always that person going, actually, it's actually Chocobo, not Chocobo. And I'm always like, but it's Chocobo to me. And, I find it hard to stray away from the ways I read things. Like, in Final Fantasy VII, like Lucretia, I have no idea what she's supposed to be pronounced like. Lucrezia? I have no idea. But, like, that was, well, I can't really spoil that either. If you know what I mean, you'll know what I'm talking about. Oh, man, Final Fantasy VII, though. But there are so many opportunities for playing games at the minute, and this is really what we should be focusing on, not looking outside the window, because if you look out the window, you're just going to get more bored and more cabin fever. Remember, if you have a garden, if you're fortunate enough to have a space around your house that is enclosed, make the most of it. The weather is coming out. I think, for the most part, you should be okay. I mean, personally, as soon as the sun comes out and it gets a couple of degrees hotter, I'm stoking that barbecue, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. It's not like I'm going out or anything. I live in the middle of a countryside, right? So my neighbors are well away from me. This is probably something you can't do in a city. I wouldn't advise it anyway. Stay indoors, people. Stay safe. But, you know, I want to sit on my patio and smoke some meats, as they say. So, I don't know. I'm very tempted to just go outside and scream. I think most people are like that. But, you know, we've got our little distractions. We've got stupid YouTubers who do stupid videos for Final Fantasy XIV and ramble for 30 minutes about complete garbage in the vain attempt to keep other people in the world entertained during tough times. You know, that hits home a little bit. But we have our sources of entertainment. And, you know, at the end of the day, there are certain other websites, wink, wink, that are adult only, which are offering free subscriptions currently. So, you know, there's that as well. A limited time supply for all of you, you parents and adults out there. Definitely Google what I'm talking about. But yeah, there's plenty of stuff to keep us busy. And 14, whilst it's a little bit dry, I would say if there isn't another game you can play with people in your community or stuff, you're going to have to find things to do. I mean, my FC is currently doing like map runs. We're doing old doggo mounts. By doggo mounts, by the way, somebody asked what I meant by that. Apparently that's not a universal thing. So the old Stormblood dog mounts from the extremes, like Lakshmi, for example, Shinryu. We've been doing a lot of those. We plan to get the dogs into a collection because if you collect all the dogs, you get a shiny big dog. How else do I describe it? A big red dog. I personally would like the red dog. That's my goal at the moment. We did all the birds, which are the Heavensward trials. We've got all the ponies from A Realm Reborn. And I've got one of the dragons, the one from Ruby Weapon Extreme. That's something else I'm trying to do. I'm getting the majority of people, at least that I talk to daily, in the FC, the most active people. I'm taking them or getting them rotated into Ruby Weapon Extreme in the attempt to get them a mount. I think we've got about 12 mounts or something. There's a few more to go until I'm out of people that want to actually play the game regularly. I'm excited for that. I mean, I got the mount very early on. I've got tons of totems, loads of different weapons for various classes. I've got weapons for classes from Ruby Weapon Extreme that I don't even have at 80. So there's even more incentive for me to finish off my everything at 80 challenge for myself. But yeah, it's fun getting people mounts and helping other people in the community. I want to do more community run stuff. I said this a while back. It's very hard to arrange times for people that I want to be there to help out. So maybe with this situation, it would be a good idea to get back on that. Maybe at the weekend we can do something together. And I mean, by together, everybody who has access to a Chaos data center. So I will post more information on that. I'll probably do like a bulletin post on YouTube or more likely on Twitter. People have more recently as well asked me where they can actually contact me directly. Somebody said that they don't want to use my business email for reasons. Personally, my business email, quote unquote, can be used by anybody who wants to communicate with me directly if they wish to. Ideally, it would be great if it was business related. But if it is something like, you know, thank you so much for your videos, I love what you do, blah, 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 or whatever, right? That's a bit condescending. I don't mean that. I really respect anybody who comments favorably towards the stuff I do. Don't take that the wrong way. But if you have something like that, I don't mind it. Feel free, send me some messages. It might actually help me a little bit. Sometimes I'd get large spates of depression, if I'm honest with you, if I'm speaking openly. It's not something we normally talk about. I have huge bouts of depression occasionally, and then anxiety is part of that as well. But mostly depression, especially lately. I don't know relatively why that is. It's just a thing that I've always had. I'm fine. I cope with it. But usually, even the weirdest, smallest positive comment actually really helps. I don't know how to describe that. But yeah, if you have anything you want to ask, you can put it in the comment section. If it's something more private or little words that you want to say to me, my business email is open. I also have Twitter. You can @ me or direct message me on there at Meoni Ace. That's Meoni Ace, all lowercase. And yeah, my DMs are open. I've had people message me before thanking me for what I do and seeing if they can help me with the internet and stuff like that. There's a lot of lovely members of this community. I don't know, man. It's really heartwarming every day that I see something. We see a lot of negative these days. We're getting the channel is getting a little bit bigger, you know, not gonna lie. It's not supersonic levels, but it's to the point now where we're getting a lot of attention from different sources, and it's really nice to see that, but we're going to get a mixed bag. But know that at the end of the day, I do read your comments. I might not reply to every single one of them, or I might miss a few. I mean, I'm not superhuman. I do regular videos. There's no way I can read every comment ever, but I try to, you know, especially more recently. So if there's something positive there, it does actually help me for the following day to go, you know what? Such and such said this, so I'm going to make this video and screw the other people who don't like it. So yeah, I do take a lot to heart. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a bad thing socially for a YouTuber. It's probably not stuff you should take to head, especially the negative stuff. That does weigh on me a bit, but I'm kind of used to it now. I get a bit depressed for other reasons, and then when I read the comment section, sometimes it makes me more depressed. That's why I have to stay away sometimes. Usually I'll get Rose to go, hey, is there anything overtly negative in that comment section I should be worried about? And she'll check it for me because she's a sweetheart. And that's why she has a roof above her head at the end of the day. That sounds really wrong, but there we go. But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying life. You should too. There's plenty of things to look forward to. And we have each other. So if you want to talk, you want to chat, we have a Discord that's public. It's a link in every description, I think. I've set it to default, be posted in every description. That isn't just a Discord for supporters or anything. There is supporter roles on there with supporter tiers of channels that you can access and different voice channels and stuff like that and other perks. But if you're just a viewer, you get the viewer role. It's auto assigned if you ask for it in the role select channel, etc. There's a lot of people on there that are in the same situation. Lots of friendly people. We police it a little bit, try and keep the toxicity down. It's a really positive place. I would advise you to come along, join in. We have public chats. We sit in a chat room together some nights. We have a laugh. Some of it's NSFW, so obviously depending on the time you join those voice channels, we might be talking about silly things, lewd things sometimes, or silly jokes that might offend people. So bear that in mind. But we do have channels for lots of safe stuff as well, and community stuff, organizations of events, and, you know, the sharing of photographs and glamour choices, of which I plan to do like a glamour contest with the Discord at some point with some prizes, so that's going to be fun. Yeah, generally it's a nice place to hang out, and that's what I would recommend, and that's my gift to you, is a place to talk and chill with me and other people. And also my DMs and my message stuff is open for you to use, so feel free to do it. Don't necessarily feel held back like, oh, I don't know if I should send this message to Meoni. I don't know if he'll read it. I'll read it. If it's there, I will read it. Trust me. I love hearing from people. It really makes my day. So anyway, let's move on to the next section of this video. My rambling is over. Let's talk to you guys specifically. So here we are, and we're going to go over to the questions, or at least comment section now, if there's any questions. I'm not sure. I should have probably asked people to post some questions for this tea time, but you know how it is. I'm completely potato some days. So firstly, let's just talk about a few topics. So Elizabeth Smith commented a few days ago, I wouldn't be opposed to an enlightenment as to why people are unhappy about Vieira and their headgear. I remember that Yoshi P stated multiple times before the release of a race that the headgear for them is a big issue that probably won't be solved like ever. The heads are too different from all other races, so with all that information released way before anyone got to the character creation menu, people knew from the start what they were getting into, and until this day are still going on about it. This puzzles me to no end. Interesting point. To me, though, this is a little bit of an unusual situation, because if you're going to introduce a race into the game, it doesn't make sense if you add headgear to everything else in that video game, especially when it comes to an MMO, when customization is the key to keeping you interested in your character, or at least that's my opinion personally. It doesn't make sense to me to lock off that for one or two particular races in general. But, you know, each of us have our own opinions. It doesn't seem to be a standpoint from Yoshi P, from what I've read, that they have a standpoint of never wanting or never adding headpieces to Viera or Hrothgar. It does seem to be that the limitation is on the older stuff, and I believe somewhere, if I could quote it directly, I would, but they mentioned they were going to be creating headgear for sets going forward, or at least making them for everybody as things go forward, because it would be easier. And perhaps we've seen that primarily with the recent edition of the bunny suit, the bunny, you know, the full actual bunny suit itself, not an actual gold saucer outfit, the one from the Hatching Tide event that came out last week. Primarily, I think that's going to be the first of many, or at least I would hope, of them adding Viera and Hrothgar to that list. But at the end of the day, that's a head replacing item, so it was nice. It was a really nice surprise for it to actually work. A lot of people speculated that it wouldn't. As I said in that previous Tea Time video, there was a lot of rumours and a lot of good information saying that we wouldn't be able to use it on Viera, but it turned out that we could, and Hrothgar too, and that was a very exciting revelation. But should we really be having those revelations about something as menial as, oh my goodness, I can finally equip this, or wow, I can actually join in with the rest of the people? Or should that just be the norm in the first place? I mean, to answer your question, people knew this from the start and they're still going on about it. I mean, I'm not necessarily the only one that this directly questions. I'm not the only one questioning this, rather. Grimjow also comments, to answer your comment with another comment, the reason I don't play Viera is because the half-assed way they made them, like 5 hairstyles with just bangs or not. Can't wear any helms, no new hairstyles for them. These races were rushed and weren't thought of. So, yeah, I mean, they've got a point there. Yes, there are some hairstyles in there, but there isn't enough of a variety. There's plenty of custom designs that people come up with in contests that just simply don't work on Viera, which is a real unfortunate part. I can understand Hrothgar to some degree, because essentially what you're doing is you're changing the hair on the entire body, not just the hair on the head when it comes to them in character creation. But with Viera, it doesn't really make as much sense. But there's always going to be little loopholes like that. But yes, there is actually helms. It's not completely devoid of them. It's just the ones we have are, you know, far and few between. And some of the ones we have are actually, you know, questionable. If you look at some of the early pieces, you're questioning, well, why is that available for a Viera that isn't? Especially considering some of the earlier models that do work have this weird clipping issue. I know that during the development of this, it was a side project for the community. They weren't asked directly to do this. They took it upon themselves. That was the story we actually reported on last year when this was a more relative thing. But some of them do look a little bit rushed, admittedly, and you have to question where some of the more important pieces of headgear are at the moment. I mean, a lot of people will probably look at headpieces and go, well, it's just a simple case of cutting 2 holes in them in whatever you have as a hat for the ears to flop through. And it's very hard to argue with that, but then again, I'm not a game designer or an artist or 3D renderer, so that's probably something that somebody in the comment section can answer. But for the most part, I'm fairly happy that going forward, we might see more headpieces developed for them, and the Hatching Tide event did kind of showcase that they are going that direction, surprisingly and happily. But is this because this was created sooner rather than later? Or was this something that's been in the pipeline for a while, and the only reason it works is because it's a direct head replacement of that model rather than just a actual normal helm? So we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. But thank you kindly for both of your comments. It's definitely interesting to see both sides of that particular discussion. Mitalune says, I love your housing videos, Meoni. There has been more than one occasion where I thought I wanted something and then got a better look through your videos and changed my mind. Your fluff videos are fun and helpful. Stay fluffy, Meoni, love heart. Well, thank you kindly for that. I will always be fluffy as long as I'm a cat, and you can guarantee that's never going to change as far as well, maybe if there's Namazu, that might be the only time I change, but the likelihood of us becoming a beast tribe, I wish we could play as the beast tribes, but that's another question for an entirely different time. This is in relation to the comment I made in the previous tea time about people not necessarily enjoying my fluff videos, my filler, if you want to call it that. I don't know if you want to call it that. They're basically 2-minute to 3-minute videos talking about housing items and how some people were more vocal about their, disagreement with me doing them than I was essentially doing them just to sponge views and money, and how I mentioned that they're not 10 minutes, they're not spammed on the channel, they're very rarely put up, and when they are, they're usually because I wanted to share them with people, not necessarily to make quick views. But a lot of people do find interest in them, such as Mitalune here, thankfully, as somebody has commented. Thank you kindly for that. And yeah, it just goes to show that there is a market for that, and people do find them useful. And the more I read this in comment sections about various things that I make, the more I feel confident in making them. Even if it's just for a few people that actually do find benefit from them, I'd much rather that than, placate to the majority any day. So yeah, thank you for that. That really actually cheered me up a little bit this morning, funnily enough. The Lordy 987 makes this large comment that says, I think the biggest issue content-wise is it takes too long between major patches, major content patches that is, and there's not enough content in said major content patches. I mean, my FC on Phoenix before Christmas probably had about 80 to 90 active members, but then people started taking breaks because there wasn't enough content and bored of the game. Now you're lucky if there are even 10 to 15 active members right now. Kinda sucks. My static is at least still raiding, even though the general consensus for this tier isn't that great, particularly E7S. But as you say, given me time to put some significant time into other games. Recently got into some fighting games. Wow, okay, nice. Tekken 7, Mortal Kombat 11 and Street Fighter, on top of getting more time in Overwatch and going back to For Honor for a bit. So a slightly mixed view right now. I'm glad the downtime in content has allowed me to do other things, but I also feel there should be more to do in 14 instead of just logging in, doing expert, doing raid if it's raid day, and then logging back out again. Usually this is something that happens. This is the between content syndrome, and it happens more frequently as we go forward. I think it's because when our dependence on the game to fill a large portion of our free time, the dependence is there and patch days come, and I find myself working through all of the content myself, just for videos mostly. But at the same time, I think that these sorts of days, I would do it regardless. There is way too many rewards trapped behind things. The incentives are there. So in many ways, the more content there is, the quicker I end up doing it. Not necessarily skipping through it, but I focus more heavily on completing that content. Stuff like ocean fishing. I worked very hard to get the equivalent title from that, and obviously the mount was an important part of that, and so was the minion. So that's where I put a lot of my time in that particular patch. It's going to be the same going forward, and I've always been like that personally. I mean, sometimes I sit here and think to myself, maybe I'm the small demographic of people that, tries to do everything to film it for YouTube. But in many ways, I've seen more and more people do that as we're going forward. And that's a really good thing because it shows the accessibility to all of his content is much greater. As a result of that, though, it does mean there is less to work towards. When we had something like Eureka, it burnt a lot of people out, but it also gave people like myself something to get our teeth stuck into. Diadem this time around for the Gathering for the Ishgard Restoration is something that I sunk way too many hours into, and then resulted in me getting both of the minions that I wanted, the Gathering and Crafting one, and then as a direct, unfortunate, unintended result, I got the beta of the Firmament title for being in the, top 100 or something of Crafting and Gathering. I got the title awarded to me twice, which is rather entertaining. I really wasn't aiming for that, but it just came as a result of me working hard for that particular minion. But that was mostly for my collection and to get a video out on that, even though I was a little bit slacking in comparison to some of the other people who knew what they were doing, but I got there in the end. But content is an interesting question. If there was more content added each patch, would there ever be a point where there would be enough to keep you bothered, to keep blogging into the game for months? But then people complain about stuff like Eureka, so it's kind of like a catch-22 at the end of the day. If you want content that's going to take you a long time to complete, added in patch cycles, it's going to be stuff like Diadem and Eureka. There's no way of getting around that, apart from a raid tier, but you have your fixed raid tier. They've taken away a deep dungeon from us this time in this expansion. They confirmed that wasn't going to be a thing this expansion, so I suppose whatever they fill the game with, be that ocean fishing style content or other things, hopefully will be enough to keep people interested. But Yoshi P himself and Square Enix have taken this standpoint of, go and play other games, go and play some of our other games. There's plenty out there. So I think a healthy balance between games and a life balance usually would be a healthy approach. But obviously work-life sort of balance is completely out, considering COVID-19 doesn't leave many people with much of a life anymore, and it's mostly just games. But I think at this point we should just be happy with whatever we get and hope for the future. But really, I do agree that there needs to be a better variety of content that keeps people interested. Maybe we'll see that with the Eureka style content coming soon. Maybe they've reworked that to be something more addictive and interesting for people who don't necessarily want to only grind. They did talk about the idea of allowing you to progress your relic weapons externally from this Eureka style content in the future. So multiple sources of progression at the same time. So I'm looking forward to that for the most part. But yeah, I do also like the idea of playing other games. We've got Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out, and honestly, if there was a large patch dropped right now, it would make me very torn. I would probably have to play 7. It's just how it is. I need to play that game. I need to record my playthrough, and I need to get that uploaded. At the same time, I want 14 to be a worthy game to play. But it's going to be a 7 week for me next week for sure. You can guarantee that. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying your fighting games. I never really got into them properly myself, but I used to when I was a kid. Mortal Kombat especially. I was always terrible at it, but my brother used to know all the fatalities, so at least he did those to me, and then tried to do them on me in real life, because that's what teenage brothers are like. But thank you kindly for your comment. That gave me quite a bit to talk about. Thank you. Pumpkin, not Pumpkin, Pumpkin says, "Gonna be honest, I don't even read or follow Square Enix news. Too many words and patch notes have too much info I don't care about, and that is not relevant to me. I'm not going to wade through all that garbage. I come to your channel and Mr. Happy for any Final Fantasy related stuff, and will keep doing so, because you guys give good info, and it is split apart so that I can view what I want to see. I've bought so many items from the cash shop that I threw away, but ever since finding your channel, I know exactly how things look, and I appreciate that. I wish it could be like ESO, where I can actually try out the mounts or clothes," they say in brackets at the end of their comment. Well, thank you for that comment. It's always fun to hear that people find use out of videos, like I said with the other comment. And it's great that you have a set of creators that can give you that. It's nice. Oh, it's so good, isn't it? When there's so many people creating content for a game. I love that. As a fan of a game myself, other games other than Final Fantasy XIV, I always like it when there's multiple people covering different aspects or the same stuff with different takes on it. I find that very, very healthy indeed. It's always a bit awful when there's only one person doing stuff, because you might not share their opinions or views on something or their style or format. So it's really healthy. I love that. But thank you kindly for watching the shopping videos. I could have my own shopping channel by the end of the year, couldn't I? I've got to get some of those really fancy gloves, though, and a camera pointed at one of those turntable things. What are they called? Lazy Susans? I think that's what they're called. Something like that. And then like a big white sheet with really powerful cameras and, so much illumination. It looks like my photo studio in 14. That would be pretty good. And then I could do that weird thing. What's that YouTuber where he does basically no voiceover, but he does unboxings? It's like unboxing ASMR. That would be kind of boring, actually. But think of all the things you could unbox. Think of all the things you'd have to buy for a channel like that. Oof. Actually, no. We'll stick to making 14 videos. But yeah, to your point, actually, about wishing it could be like ESO, where you could actually try on mounts and clothes. That is something that I'm sure Square Enix would love to put in, but I have a feeling that the answer would be spaghetti code, 1.0 code, and nightmare. That would probably be the order of that response, maybe slightly different order, but to the same degree. It's a really good idea, though, and it would alleviate some issues if you could try them on your own character. Video previews are fine, little pictures, previews are cool on the Mog Station, but they're not going to be the same as trying them on yourself. Now, in other games that don't have this function but have less of a policy about third-party tools, I would suggest trying them out with third-party tools. But obviously, I'm not at liberty to say that here directly to you, because obviously that's not something I should really be promoting or telling people to do, and I'm not, just to preface that. But a lot of people do actively do that to try stuff on, and I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it myself if you want to try something out. But apart from that, I'm really glad I could be of service. Thank you kindly. I'd love to know how many people have bought costumes just because I've made a video on them. Not to sound big-headed or anything, but that's a large chunk of change, Square Enix. You're welcome. So next up, we have another comment to look at from Paul Doherty that says, spoilers for a 23-year-old game. Kids these days. I like physical copies, but current-gen game physical copies don't have a playable version of a game on the disc half the time. End quote. This is in relation to our discussion on Final Fantasy VII Remake. Might as well put that here in this comment section as well. So yeah, people were talking about spoilers. I mentioned how people were a little bit worried about spoilers from this game based on Final Fantasy VII. That's the point, though. It's based on Final Fantasy VII, as I see a few people have already commented back to you, Paul. I'm not going to rank you about that because, you didn't know, purely. It's a 23-year-old game. There's lots of things that I can't mention here that happened in the original that are spoilers if you've never played the game before, but there's also spoilers for me and you as well. Has it really been 23 years? Now you're making me feel old. I feel bad now. But yeah, the fact that there's new stuff added to the game really, really excites me. Apparently there's new characters. There's different areas of Midgar to explore, supposedly. I don't know, man. Like, I really hope I can get on one of those trains that goes around the entire area. Please don't reply to me in the comment section. I don't want to know, actually. But I would imagine how sidetracked can I get in this video game? If I can pretty much get on the train and go to one of the other places and do some side quests, then I'm sold. That's what I want from the remake, not necessarily to see all of the cool bits that I remember, although that will be cool to see it from a different perspective, like you saw when I did the gameplay demo. I did the playthrough of that for nearly 2 hours. It was fun to see that stuff, but I'm really more looking forward to seeing, well, the voice acting, because some of the words and pronunciations have never been uttered outside of a development studio before. People on the internet pretend they know how things are pronounced, and there's a lot of Americanizations that are going to be more prevalent as we go forward. So that's another part I'm excited for. The music is going to be beautiful. There's lots of new music being composed for this, in addition to the original soundtrack being reorchestrated and brought to life and rewritten. I can't wait for that. But most importantly, those characters and those subplots. I really hope they're not just bolted on extras. They've got to feel like a side quest. I'm not sure what that would entail, but what springs to mind is the Cloud dressing up section of Midgar, that particular part, without spoiling too much. I'm sure people have seen it from trailers anyway. That, to me, was a side quest as part of the main quest. I mean, there's ways you could improve your score in that particular part of the game, if you remember, by doing other things. So yeah, I kind of hope they're not just tacked on like a random NPC we've never met before. Well, that's a given, but that sticks out, that isn't someone that belongs there. Like Chocolina from Final Fantasy XIII. I'm going to get a lot of bad comments now, aren't I? A lot of people love Chocolina. Damn. I found her annoying. Unpopular opinion, and she didn't fit there. Well, she kind of did. Oh, I don't know. I just hope they're not tacked on characters like that don't make sense necessarily in the lore of that particular place. It's got to be something that kind of happened. What I'm looking for is walking through the slums, seeing that guy. I think there was a guy who was raging about his television not working or something in the original. I'm not going to dig up footage of that right now because that'll take me an ice age to find. But I seem to remember just an off-topic line from an NPC that you talk to in Final Fantasy VII, the original game, where a guy was like, damn it, I can't get my signal, damn plate's in the way or something. And I would expect there to be like a little side quest where we help that guy and get him a new TV. I'm not sure why Cloud would go and get him a new TV. It's not really the usual MO for a terrorist, but oh well. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but that to me would feel more relevant than necessarily someone going, hey, collect all of these shiny squares and I'll give you a Moogle plushie. Why would I collect squares? What are you and why are you here? Would be my first line of questioning. So I hope it's more leaning towards in-game built-in lore stuff rather than just tacked on extras. But apparently there's lots of new lore. I've not looked into it past that. I certainly haven't looked into any spoiler stuff. Or any leaks, because it's not interesting to me. I want to play the game and I don't mind waiting. There's this massive fear of missing out crap in society at the minute, and I'm happy that I'm not a part of it. I really am, because it's kind of sad. Anyway, let's move on. Thank you kindly for your comment, Paul. Vamp Princess 21 simply puts, I don't get to stay home. I have to work for a senior living centre. Well, all I can say to that is thank you for what you do. The weak and vulnerable, the aged people in this world are the most vulnerable. Well, necessarily some of the most vulnerable, let's say, in the world currently, in the current climate of the issue at hand. And it's people like you and people who work in health services, like my brother, that are doing the world proud. So honestly, thank you kindly for everything you do. And honestly, staying home isn't all that it's cracked up to be. I'll assure you on that. I know it seems crazy right now in real life for people who work in those industries, but yeah, I mean, there's a bit of cabin fever going. Cabin fever? Fever. Yes, cabin fever, not fever. This is a new disease where I can't actually talk. But yeah, it's crazy on both sides. You have it worse, I know. But yeah, it's not all it's cracked up to be. I think there's a lot more pressure on you guys than anyone else in the world right now. And if you can pull through this and help us save lives like you are doing by helping those elderly out who can't necessarily care for themselves or, do the simple things in life we take for granted, then truly you're saving the world. Thank you. So yeah, a little bit emotional. Not really something that you'd expect for me to say necessarily on a video like this, but, jokes aside, these people are saving the world and we're not. I'm sat here making videos, so it's kind of I'm just an entertainment stopgap until the next nasty story appears on the news. So, the news lately has just been driving me insane. I will say that. It's just all focused on the negative. There's no focus on the positive. What I would kill for some news about Brexit. I was sick to death of it now, before this whole thing kicked off. But now I kind of wish for more Brexit drama. This country is a nightmare, but it was a nightmare before this epidemic, and it's even more nightmarish now. But I would go back to that if I could choose, for sure. Anyway, I think you'll agree that this has come to the end of today's tea time. If you would like to leave comments below, basically any question on anything, or some nice comments or negative comments, I will try and respond to as many as I would like to. I say as many as I would like to, mostly because I get the executive decision, haha. But as many as I could possibly get to within a time limit and actually answer. I'll pick out the good ones and a few bad ones, and we'll discuss those. But yeah, tea time is more regular now, as you've noticed. People like it. It keeps them busy. And if there's any small way that I can help through this very weird medium called YouTube, then I'm sure as heck going to do it. So thank you kindly for watching. Stay safe wherever you are in the world. If you are working in public services and still have to work, or essential work, whatever that's classed as in your country, then my proverbial hat goes off to you. And thank you for what you're doing. And hopefully we can come out of this sooner because of people like you putting in all that extra work. So thank you so very much. And thank you all kindly for watching. And I'll see you all next time.